What is going on, guys and girls? How are you doing today? It's Single Roleplay once again. Today I'm super hyped to present to you another build guide which I just created, and this was my long time project which I started in 3.5 but just never had the time to finish as the health problems really pressed hard on me. I just ran out of time and only managed to play one build instead of two builds. I really wanted to play this build in 3.5 because this is where we got a major rework of cold damage over time. Everyone was playing Cold Snap and Vortex, but I've been looking in a different direction. I want to try something different. I wanted to try Arctic Breath and see just how strong it is, how it compares to Cold Snap and Vortex, and to be honest, it was just not the time to try Arctic Breath because the damage was not there. So to my surprise, in 3.6 Arctic Breath got a substantial buff. I was super hyped because the build that I had planned for 3.5 started to becoming a kind of a reality. And I finally started fine-tuning this, looked at the numbers and realized that the damage is practically the same as Vortex. So the damage has arrived in 3.6 and it is the time to show you guys this build in all its glory. One important thing to mention about this footage is that it's just a standard character that I assembled from scraps that I had. I had most of the gear like the shafts and energy shield gear and the skill gems, but it doesn't have elemental equilibrium, it doesn't have the crafted multi-mod scepter that I will be having in the build as the endgame weapon, so it's far below the damage that we must have on the build. And even without this, with just the generic shit, as you can see, it still blows the fuck out of the levels. I killed Phoenix easily. This will be in a separate video, so I can show you how I faced the Phoenix without all this fancy gear. I also killed Shaper easily, deathless, first attempt. No big deal, guys. So the damage is there, the build is smooth, and it just works exactly like I wanted it to be. Another thing to mention is why Arctic Breath, why not something else? Well, for a good reason. I really wanted to see just how good is Arctic Breath now after the rework, because I just liked how grinding against rework Arctic Breath. I wanted to try it, I wanted to compare to the Cold Snap and Vortex, and when the numbers arrived, I knew that it is the time. Another thing that I wanted to try on the build is the new energy shield leech nodes, and this build will actually show you a synergy between the energy shield, leech Trickster, and the Arctic Breath skill, because it's quite hit heavy, so it's not entirely just damage over time. So it's this combination kind of a very interesting. It's a completely non-meta. It's one of the least playable skills in the game, I believe, along with shit like Vengeance, you know. So if you want something non-meta, if you're tired of Cold Snap Vortex, even though it's pretty similar, you can try this build. If you're a fan of the non-meta builds, this is definitely for you. Try something different, guys. Don't just copy Cold Snap Vortex. Be unique. And at the same time, this is not your fancy no damage meme build. It actually kills, it actually does damage, and you will see it right now in the Phoenix fight, which I will show you right here. So, you know, it actually kills stuff. It's not just a meme, it's not a ZDPS build that does literally nothing, and it's fucking viable for anything. I will also be killing Uber Elder, no doubts here, for on the Synthesis League with this when I optimize and level up my second character, so that's absolutely good for anything, both farming and mapping and bossing. Everything is extremely good for this. Let's take a look at the party building, guys. I will show you all the details. So here we are, guys, in the party building, and I optimize everything quite heavily because I'm a fucking nerd. But at the same time, I always keep my builds realistic with the gear that you can craft during the league. There's no mirror tier gear or whatever the fuck there is. All absolutely, you know, sustainable, achievable, no crazy shit there. So first of all, let's take a look at the skill tree. We will be playing Trickster for a good reason. The cast time on the Arctic Breath is pretty low, as you can see here. Let me tell you, Arctic Breath The cast time is 0.7 seconds, so it's pretty slow to cast skill. You need a lot of cast speed to make it pretty viable, just like the Soul Rend, you know, is just fucking slow. It's a projectile spell, AoE, cold damage over time. It's very interesting, mechanically wise. It's firing an icy projectile when it bursts on impact and when reaching the targeted area. It deals area damage and creates a chilling area that deals cold damage over time. And the funniest part about this is you can have up to 10 chilling areas at once on screen. And this is practically, if I compare it to something like Vortex or Cold Snap, this is like 10 Vortexes, 10 Cold Snaps at a time, which you can shoot ahead. And this is crazy, guys. It's just great. Like a Cold Snap that you throw in a con, it goes up and explodes, and you have like 10 Cold Snaps at a time on the ground. This is absolutely insane. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to try it as well. Like I said, it's an projectile AoE cold spell, so it scales with both projectiles, with cold damage over time, with AoE and the spell damage too. To help with the cast speed, we're going Trickster, and we really need this Ghost Shroud and Escape Artist. Ghost Dance to give us a Ghost Shroud. Ghost Shroud gives us increased cast speed and everything else as well. Yeah, if I'm correct, right? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Ghost Dance gives us Ghost Shroud, and Escape Artist gives us increased attacking cast speed per Ghost Shroud. So there's like 36% increased cast speed on 3 Ghost Shrouds. This is a lot of cast speed, and this just really helps with the slow cast time on the Arctic Breath. Another thing is Prolonged Pain, 20% more damage over time. This is ridiculous. Multiply, it's really strong. The first thing that I'll potentially get is Patient Reaper, just to get kind of synergy up and flowing. Your life on kill, energy shield on kill, mana on kill, increase damage over time, increase recovery rate. For the Crew Lab, I will definitely get Ghost Dance. For the Mercy, Escape Artist, and for the Uber Lab, this is your endgame GG shit, which is Prolonged Pain. Here we go. So for the tree, this is a pretty much standard Cold Snap Vortex low life tree. It's practically the same thing with just a few differences, because I opted for a spell damage Leech Test Energy Shield. I took both Ethereal Fist and the Light Eater, guys. This is extremely important. Aside from that, this is an absolutely standard Cold Snap Vortex tree. Luckily, the trees are the same, so if you know what is Cold Snap Vortex build, you will be very familiar with this without big problems. Practically the same tree, except we also go Ghost Trigger, because like I said, I want to maximize Energy Shield Leech here as well to see how good the synergy is, and so far it kind of worked for me. It just works really nicely, so I decided to leave it as is. The biggest problem with the tree and with the low life builds is to transition from life to CI to energy shield, and I have a pretty solid guide on this, and there's multiple good videos on this. ZiggyD has a nice video on this too, on his Cold Snap Vortex guide, how to transition from life to CI and from CI to low life. I also have a separate guides on this in my Essence Drain Soul Rend build guides. I'll be copying that to have you, because it's practically the same shit. You basically go hybrid at first, grabbing some life nodes over here, grabbing some life nodes over here, grabbing some lives over here, grabbing life over here, and then as you move forward and grabbing more energy shield, and when you reach this, you will be at about level 8, 70, 80, depending on how much gear you have already. You'll be going to CI. This is where you may buy some Val Regale with about 400 energy shield, something like Syntrack boots, 200 energy shield, some decent gloves, some placeholder helmet like Rhyme Gaze is extremely cheap, or Doedrus Scorn or Heretic's Veil, anything like the Verdicts. All of these are extremely good. This is where you play CI most of the time, and up till the point where you get your chevrons droppings. And as soon as you get chevrons droppings, you basically inspect your chaos and collation and go pain attunement, receiving more spell damage when on low life, and reserving your life with the skills like Blood Magic, Clarity, and Val Discipline, which gives you the discipline, which reserves a part of your life. As you can see, we have very little unreserved life, which will make you a low life character, giving you 30% more spell damage, which is a multiplier. Going low life is pretty mandatory if you want to achieve really high numbers, the highest possible numbers in the game for any damage over time characters, because this is the only way how you can get the highest DPS out of any spells in the game. So that's it. For skill tree, like I said, it's a pretty standard Cold Snap Vortex skill tree, nothing spectacular. The only big difference is I took both Ethereal Fist and Light Eater. There's a couple of interesting things here which I did with the Might of the Meek here, because it's a large skill gem which also touches this new shield spell damage nodes over here, as well as probably even this. Yeah, I think it touches this thing as well. So it also increases the spell damage, and also gives this thing 40% increased energy shield from equip shield. This is extremely strong. With this one, it gives you a 60% increased energy shield from equip shield. This is incredibly powerful. It also increases the damage of all cold damage over time over here, and it was increased their effect here, as well as increases energy shield, and energy shield recharge rate over here touches this. This is extremely strong. Now let's get back to the actual gear, guys, because I will explain everything in detail as fast as possible. For the weapons, there are two options. One is the multi-modded Scepter with 40% increased elemental damage, and there is two Scepters with such a high elemental damage. One is the Opal Scepter base, and another one is, I believe, the Void Scepter, as far as I can remember, of the Abyssal. One of the two, I can't remember exactly which one it is. I think, yeah, I think it was the Void Scepter, as far as I can remember. So this is your end game GG weapon. It should have cold damage over time multiplier, increased damage over time, spell damage, and trigger socketed spell when you use a skill. I explain later why you need this socketed spell when you use a skill, because it will work towards our elemental overload as well as elemental equilibrium too. Another best second weapon that you can use is absolutely cheap, unique weapon called Spino, the First Claimant. This is a Scepter. This is everything we need from a good damaging Scepter. This is 35% cold damage over time multiplier, cast speed, chance to freeze, increased damage with hits against frozen enemies, as well as up to 50% increased cold damage. This is absolutely fantastic weapon, and if we use this, the damage drops, but it's not crazy drop, so practically you can run the whole game with this without multi-modding, multi-crafting anything, and will be just fine. On the offhand, we got just some generic spirit shield, as much ES as possible, some resist, guys, nothing spectacular. The helmet is Rhyme Gaze. This is the absolute maximum GG helm you can have for this build, because it has cold damage over time multiply, as well as increased cold damage, as well as conk effect for our Cold Snap we will be using here as a pseudo 5-link. This is extremely strong, guys. This is extremely strong helm. For the helm enchant, there are two options. One is the Arctic Breath damage, and another one is the Arctic Breath duration. Arctic Breath duration is less important, and Arctic Breath damage is of course better. Another options which can be used here are definitely something like Deader's Scorn, Heretic's Veil, and the Vertex. All these three are always usable for as a cheap substitute for the Rhyme Gaze. Another thing that is much more expensive will be some Hubris Circlet crafted with the cold and dense fossils, which give you minus a 9% cold res to nearby enemies, along with some cold spell damage maybe on the Shaper base. So this is much different investment, but if you can craft a Hubris Circlet, it will be absolute GG stuff. The body armor is Chevron's wrappings. This is what gives us, allows us to go low life. This is the corrupted one, just to give you the basic idea on what corruptions can be used on the build. Of course, +2 level socket duration gems gives us absolutely ridiculous boost for the damage. If we use just a normal shafts, it will be much less damage, guys, much less. So this shafts is like, you know, one of a kind. It's extremely expensive. It's literally impossible to get. But if you ever see things such as this, just take it, because this is ridiculously powerful. Try, if you are swimming currency, try to corrupt this in the, you know, in the temple. But if you're not, just using normal shafts, it's not big of a deal. It's still over 2.5 million damage there. The gloves are two options. One is the cold damage over time multiplier gloves, which are basically either the shaper gloves or the fractured gloves or the synthesized gloves in the, if you're playing in the synthesis league. Another cheap option, which is much cheaper, is the Vixen's entrampment with the elemental weakness, a corruption on this. This is practically the same amount of damage, but the investment will be much different. Vixen's entrampment with the corruption of elemental weakness, it's about 5 to 50, 70 chaos, while this kind of gloves will be a totally different thing. You know, it's at least, I don't know, at least 3, 4, maybe 5 exiles. I don't know, it's much more expensive. You need to buy a good base, you need to annul all the crap, then you need to multi-mod all this shit. This is very expensive gloves, but if you can ever get this, I think it will be absolutely fantastic. The boots are nothing spectacular, guys, just your energy shield boots with Region of Life and Mana. The amulet is once again an interesting thing, which is the shaper item with cold damage over time multiply and something useful like strength, dexterity, energy shield, resistance, increase max ES. This is absolute PogChamp amulet on this. If you don't have it, or you're suffering from low strength and dexterity, you don't want to put all this shit on the tree, like you don't want to spec into might or agility here. You can always use a good old Astramantis and it solves all the issues. It drops your energy shield, you know, a little bit, drops your resistance a little bit, drops your damage a little bit, but it's also so much pain in the ass. So I always use Astramantis when I really lacking all the necessary stats on me. The rings are absolutely crazy things over here. I think I used these rings, I found these rings on some other build. I believe it was some Cold Snap and Vortex build. I just wanted to see what kind of rings I should be aiming for the absolute end game. These rings are another dimension, guys, another dimension, but it will give you an idea what you want to aim for. This is like crazy shit. A power rings with elemental damage, faster startup, energy shield recharge. This is what you will be aiming for. The belt is also another dimension of shit, which is basically cold damage, resist elemental damage, and increase damage. If you don't have this kind of shit, guys, you can always use baited breath. Just use baited breath. It's extremely cheap. It of course will lower your defenses, lower your resistance and shit, but you can walk around this on the rings, on the amulet. Baited breath is just absolutely fantastic, cheap option here. So for the jewels, guys, this is absolutely crazy as well. Yeah, I remember where I found this jewel. This jewel was in Velasco's Cold Snap Vortex build. I really admire this guy. He did a fantastic job on his Cold Snap Vortex build, guys. If you're looking for a Cold Snap Vortex good build, just try to find in Velasco's Cold Snap Vortex. He actually simulated a lot of good things in his build guide, and this is what you see exactly here. On the gems, you just need to do something like energy shield, increase damage over time, and practically just, you know, spell damage while holding shield. And on normal jewels like this, you should be using cold damage over time multiply, increase maximum energy shield, and something useful like area damage, as well as faster start of energy shield recharge or energy shield regen rate. here. The flasks are nothing spectacular except only one important thing, which is Cinderswall Urn. Cinderswall Urn is a little trickier. Enemies ignited by you during flask effect take 10% increased damage. Look at this. In order to ignite, we need to crit with the fire damage. This is a little tricky, and this is what I personally implemented. Armageddon brand with increased critical strike, guys. This is pretty sick, right? Isn't it? So this shit over here, not only it procs Cinderswall Urn, it also procs our elemental equilibrium over here, which works like 2 ways, and it's pretty sick. I think it's pretty sick thing if you can use this. The other flask are Onslaught, Quicksilver, Sulfur, which gives us Consecrated Ground, Anti-Curse, and Quartz. Dodge, dodge. That's about it. With the region as well, with the region on the Mastermind here. Now to the tricky part, Watcher's Eye. There's several different Watcher's Eyes that you can use for the build, but I think this one is probably the best that I've managed to find. I actually own this Watcher's Eye. I actually have it in the game. It was 7 Exile, and this I believe is much even better than the fastest start of Energy Shield Recharge. It only gives a 22% cold damage over time multiplier while affected by Malevolence, and we use Malevolence in this build. At the same time, it greatly increases Energy Shield recovery rate, which affects the leech rate as well as both after regen. So it works 2 ways, leech and regen at the same time, guys. This is extremely good. And Might of the Meek, like I said, it's pretty good if you want to go like max DPS. You can go place Might of the Meek over here. Now let's go with the skills really quick. I will have all this written down in the forum thread, guys. It's nothing insane. If you miss something on the video guide, just make sure you read everything on the forum. It will always have an extensive written part of there. Just go there really quick. First of all, let's compare our damage to the Vortex and Cold Snap probably. Yeah, let's take a look at the Vortex. So here is our Arctic Breath damage. As you can see, 3.1 million damage. Let's click Arctic Vortex here, and as you see, it's 3 million. So Vortex is even kind of a less damage than Arctic Breath. This is pretty ridiculous, as you can see. If we put Cold Snap here, like for example, right? Cold Snap 21, 20. Cold Snap will be even lower, actually. So Arctic Breath is PogChamp, as far as I can understand, if I understand everything correctly. If my eyes are correct, PogChamp Cold Snap is not even as good as the Arctic Breath, so that's about it. So let's forget about this. The skill gems as follows: Efficacy, Control Destruction, Swift Affliction, Arctic Breath, and Hypothermia. There's a reason why I run Hypothermia here. I just want to chill and freeze enemies. What's most importantly, freeze is actually pretty cool. I tried some bosses yesterday and I managed to freeze them once in a while. And along with this, Spine of the First Claimant, which gives us 5% chance to freeze. It really works miracles on bosses. It's really fun. That's why I decided I'm gonna run Hypothermia instead of LA Focus here. But if you want to run LA Focus, it will be slightly more damage if you wish. Another thing that I want to mention is by default it only shoots 1 projectile, which is kind of shit. For bosses it's not big of a deal, but for mapping I use definitely go greater multiple projectiles with level 21. I think this is absolutely fantastic thing. It raises the mana cost dramatically, but you can drop Swift Affliction and basically run GMP, and the clear speed will be much better than this, guys. This is it. Okay, so the 6th link is done. Now to the 3rd link. This is our low life gloves, which is Blood Magic, Clarity, and Discipline, with 1 separate socket for Malevolence. Here, guys, there's one important thing to mention is the level of Clarity, because we do not reserve anything on the tree. We don't go here, we don't go here. That's why Blood Magic paired with the Discipline and Clarity really sucks all the life from us. And as you can see, there's a very low amount of life unreserved left here. If we start increasing clarity, it literally goes to like minus. That's why we need to keep it in some decent level, like 12 for example, to keep some life on this. Not 1%, but something higher than this. This is our helm, which is in the rhyme gaze. It's a pseudo 5 link with the control destruction. This is Val Cold Snap. Let's give a quality to this, like for example this. Val Cold Snap will be hard to get till 2021. So yeah, Val Cold Snap with Empower, Efficacy, Bone Chill, and if you don't have Empower, just switch Empower with Control Destruction. That's about it. Cold Snap serves a couple of purposes. The first purpose is giving you frenzy charges. When enemy dies in an area, a chilling area of Cold Snap, it gives you frenzy charges. And Val Cold Snap gives you frenzy charges every second when the enemy is in the skills area, and the skill lasts 4 seconds. So for 4 seconds you literally gain for maximum amount of frenzy charges. This is very nice. At the same time, Cold Snap actually does some crazy amount of damage on its own. It's about 1,000,000 dips, so it's actually like Bane for the Essence Drain and Soul Rend skills. It's your Bane. It basically clears small packs when you're bored and don't want to shoot Arctic Breath. Just drop your Cold Snap on top of it, and it's done. It's done. So let's move on. On the left, we have our mobility, which is either shield charge 45 and level 1 arcane surge. This is very important to understand, guys. Level 1 arcane surge if you're using shield charge, because 2 shield charges will give us exactly 1 arcane surge buff. It's not as much as the flame dash though, but flame dash is much more hungry with fast casting, but it doesn't give us fortify. So flame dash you can use higher level arcane surge, which I have here. I'm personally a big fan of shield charge, so I will be using shield charge, but this is up to you to decide, guys, on this. Okay, now there's another tricky part. Another tricky part is your first weapon, and let's assume we have this endgame crafted multi-modded Scepter with the trigger socketed spell. When you use a skill, we will be triggering a couple of things here. First of all, we will be triggering Armageddon Brand with increased critical strikes and Frost Bomb. And not only it will give us a cold damage or a debuff for the enemies, but Armageddon Brand will crit, ignite the enemies, and proc our Cinderswall Urn. This is a little trick that I personally invented, I guess, and it will just work. It will just work. As you can see, I also have this clicked. Enemies was hit by fire damage to proc Elemental Equilibrium. I know that some people use Malachi's Artifice, but honestly, if you don't want to mess around with all this shit, if you don't care about the damage, use Malachi's Artifice. It's also very strong, but I just don't want to lose a ring slot. I really want to go like endgame GG. I don't want to lose a ring slot for the Elemental Equilibrium. This is why just a little mass to proc your EE and Cinderswall Urn at the same time. I think that's about it. And the last thing I want to talk about is the boot slot, which is your 1 Curse, Blasphemy, Temp Chains, and Feeble, whatever you place here, as well as Immortal Call and Castman damage taking, guys. This is practically a kind of defensive spot over here. I think I explained pretty much everything. If you have any questions, just let me know, guys. I will try to display and explain everything I have on the forums. I will try to get the leveling tree done as well. So far the build is still kind of, you know, in the works. It's still in progress, so keep an eye on that thread. Check the videos. If you have any questions, ask me on Discord, on Twitch, on whatever you can. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you soon. First of all, I would like to thank you very much for watching the video. Your likes and dislikes, especially, as they push me forward even more. If you want to see more content, please consider subscribing to the channel. I do daily uploads of role-playing content, being it builds, guides, let's play, stream highlights, and upcoming RPG games. Also, don't forget to follow my Twitch stream to catch me live in action. I do stream daily on working days. I'm a full-time YouTube content creator and a Twitch streamer too, so if you want to support me, you can do it either from Twitch or by PayPal directly from my website angryroleplayer.com. Join my Discord channel too for a place to discuss RPG things offline, as well as follow my Twitter to be notified on any new content. If you want to get extra information like sneak peeks into upcoming videos, plans, different behind the scenes footage, you can also join the Unholy Army on Patreon as well, guys. Thank you very much once again for watching, listening to all this. See you soon.